All right, great. While they're coming to the dais, I'd just like to mention our sponsors again: the Ronald Reagan Building, Ukrainian Helicopters, Rahmat Siddiqui Group, Trivision as our platinum sponsors, our gold sponsors: Washington Mortgage, SOSI, you know it as Turquoise Mountain, Appleton Consulting, and also with their Canarail partnership, the American University of Afghanistan, the Business Innovation Hub. You'll hear from a lot of these people in the course of events. You see their logos up there. Our silver sponsors: Aria Target Group of Companies, Metis Solutions, Chemonics International, Afghan Wireless Communications, AWCC. Our bronze sponsors: the BNN Transportation, TMH Medical Services, the SPA Group, SBA, Tetra Tech, Future Brilliance. Yeah, I want to mention, there is a table out there, ladies and gentlemen, with some gorgeous Afghan-produced jewelry. This is not the stuff you find on Chicken Street, which is fine, and I love it, and I have it, but it is really high-end jewelry to be sold in the United States and in Japan and Europe. So please take a good look at it and be generous with your checkbooks, your credit cards, or your cash. Also, you will hear tonight, the banquet presentation tonight is stunning. It's put on by a group called Turquoise Mountain, which was founded by the famous Rory Stewart, who walked across Afghanistan from Herat to Jalalabad, and who is now a member of the British Parliament. And you'll hear from Dr. Tommy Wide, who is an Oxford University PhD in Afghan history. It'll be a brilliant presentation tonight, too. And it's based on the gemstones industry moving up a level, to a higher level. So Afghan-American Women Association, Clements Worldwide, another bronze sponsor, Pulao Corporation, Technologists, Inc., Sam and Mary Logistics Services Company, and again, you'll hear from a number of these people in the course of our panels. So, take it away. Abdul Ghafoor is our panel moderator. He was a deputy minister prior to the Soviet invasion. He is probably one of the leading experts on agriculture in Afghanistan. He is the chairman of Rana Seeds. He is well respected by the international community, and he is here to deliver a message and moderate the panel. Abdul John, please come to the podium.
Thank you, Lord. Assalamu alaikum. I think Don is very, very good in making very brief introductions. This panel, unfortunately, one member of the panel is missing, and that was a very important member of the panel, Dr. Professor John Miller. Hope he will come back later. In the panel, we have David Bailey. I'm glad he was with us in the last AEC conference, also in the panel on agriculture. We have Charles Mal, and we have a very newcomer whom I know well. He is Chris Sedu. He comes from Philadelphia, and he will be speaking on a brand new subject, that's agriculture mechanization in Afghanistan. For me, as Don said, I've spent most of my life in agriculture, both in Afghanistan and overseas. But since 2002, I've gone back to Kabul, and I'm there ever since. And I'm the chairman of Rana Technology Enterprises, Rana Agribusiness, Rana Vocational Technical Skill Training. I'm pleased to be here, and I thank AEC for providing this forum to talk to you about a very, very important, I would say, vitally important sector in Afghanistan, that's agriculture. My topic given to me by AEC is the strength of agriculture sector. Well, to me, as an agriculturist, and as I say, spending most of my life in agriculture, the sector is so huge and so strong, potentially at least. Maybe it's not so to many people who are not agriculturists. The panel with me today will are pleased to discuss once more the strengths, potentials, and opportunities of Afghan agriculture and their role in the socio-economic development of Afghanistan. Thanks to AEC for providing a forum for such important discussion. As the largest production sector of the country, agriculture continues to serve the country in terms of production of food to its growing population, feed over 20 million animals, providing raw materials for the growing domestic agro-industries, and supplying wood for construction and fuel, and contributing greatly to the Afghan exports. The potential strength of Afghan agriculture, as represented by, I'm just citing why we call it the strength, why we call the sector very strong. Over 8 million hectares of arable land. That's a huge, huge wealth. 75 billion cubic meter of fresh water. Over 20 million livestock. About 30 million hectares of grazing land. Over 25 million or 80% of the hard-working Afghan population engaged in agriculture. A favorable climate of 4 distinct seasons, which provides opportunities for crop diversification and crop intensification under both irrigated and rate-fed farming. With such magnitude and production potentials, it will be unfair to say that Afghanistan is a poor country. I usually speak with my friends, I say, please don't say Afghanistan is a poor country. It is rather the Afghan people who have remained poor, mainly because they have not been able to effectively utilize the gifted potentials, and that's due to the lack of responsive investment and the best use of the available farm technologies. Reportedly, the amount of investment over the past years did not exceed a level of 3% per year. And this level of investment, compared to the contribution that the agriculture sector provides to the national economy, is quite low and reflects a low level of priority the government has accorded to the agriculture sector. Over the past years, the future of agriculture has been often subjected to the mercy of fluctuating weather conditions. Precipitation above normal has often been accompanied by flooding and destruction. In contrast, lower precipitation than normal means droughts, low production, and food, feed, and water shortages, or miseries to both farmers and consumers. This situation can be controlled by effective management of the country's water resources, which require long-term investment. I'm so much surprised that over the last 13 years, there was a great hesitation on the part of donors to invest in long-term projects. For agriculture, this is not realistic. You cannot improve agriculture overnight. You cannot build a dam in 3 years. You cannot build a canal in 3 years. So this has to be very, very seriously considered in the future investments. Of the total 8 million arable land the Afghan agriculture is gifted with, only about 1/4 or 2 million hectares has come under irrigated farming. The remaining 6 million hectares does not receive any water. Despite the large amount of donors' financial assistance that has poured into the country, the irrigated farming area has in fact shrunk compared to the period of 60s and 70s. With available water resources and adequate long-term investment, the country's irrigated farming area can be at least doubled. And this means substantial increase in the country's farm production, especially valuable crops. Increasing irrigated farming areas would also ensure more investment opportunities, because no farmer will invest in dryland farming because it's so uncertain and no one can tell what will happen next year, but they would under irrigated farming condition. So we have this huge potential of 8 million hectares, 2 of which are irrigated, the remaining 6 are not irrigated, and that potential would need to be addressed. Lack of attention to the effective tapping of the existing production potential will mean growing opportunity cost to the sector as well as farmers and national economy. My colleagues will be speaking here on the various aspects of Afghan agriculture, and I would not be taking the time, and I'm sure they will have better ideas to present to you. In short, Afghan agriculture is a huge, huge wealth for Afghan and Afghanistan. And of the total potential for agricultural development, we have only tapped less than 30%. The remaining 70% has to be tapped, and that's a great, great challenge for the next government. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is David Bailey. I'm the Private Sector Engagement Advisor in the Office of Afghanistan and Pakistan's Affairs for USAID. To open my remarks, I would like to quote from the New Unity Government's recent publication, Realizing Self-Reliance, Commitments to Reforms and Renewed Partnerships, which outlines its reform agenda in the transformational decade ahead, the same document that Dr. Zakawal referenced in his presentation. The agricultural sector is especially cited as a key foundational block for economic development in Afghanistan in this document. The document states, Afghanistan's growth and job creation for the next decade will hinge on private sector growth and investment in extractive industries, infrastructure, services, agriculture, and trade. And in the section on promoting growth in key economic sectors, it further states, agriculture, transportation, extractive industries will be the main pillars of economic development over the next decade, and continues by saying the government sees the agriculture sector as the largest source for job creation and poverty reduction, as is committed to comprehensive development in the sector. And developing agriculture and increasing productivity will require large multi-sector investments in irrigation and the development of value chains. It further states, given resource limitations, public investment will be very strategic and focused on those segments of agriculture which show the largest potential for expansion and job creation. In highlighting how USAID-funded agriculture programs in Afghanistan are helping to grow and advance this key sector, I would like to quickly highlight 4 USAID field-level agricultural initiatives that have the most potential to facilitate private sector investment, then offer an overview of private sector opportunities in Afghanistan's agriculture sector. The initiatives I want to briefly highlight are the Commercial Horticulture and Agriculture Marketing Program, better known as CHAMP, and the 3 regional agricultural development programs, which these programs focus on production increases and market development. The CHAMP program works with rural farmers to increase productivity of existing vineyards and the conversion of former wheat, poppy, and corn fields to orchards and vineyards. And it works to improve produce quality, harvesting, packing, cooling methods, and support traders in executing efficient export logistics. This program runs through December 2016 and has a USAID investment of $40 million. The next one I would like to highlight are our 3 regional agricultural development programs. They go by the acronym RADP. So the RADP for the southern region also works with rural farmers, but the focus is more on strengthening key agricultural value chains specific to wheat, livestock, and selected high-value crops. The private sector approaches to strengthen market linkages and enhance the enabling environment for agribusiness are a priority. This program runs through October 2018 with a USAID investment of $125 million. The next program will be RADP North, and it is focused on improving productivity, efficiencies, and profitability of major agricultural value chains that involve wheat, grapes, dried fruits, and nuts, goats, and sheep. This program runs through May 2019 and has a USAID investment of $78.5 million. The next is our program in the West. RADP West is very similar to RADP North in that it will partner with the local private sector to develop growth-oriented agricultural value chains in Western Afghanistan to increase on-farm productivity of Afghan producers. This initiative runs through 2019 and has a USAID investment of $69 million. The rollout of the Regional Agricultural Development Program for the East is currently pending. I would now like to provide a brief overview of private sector opportunities in the ag sector and how USAID is supporting investments. USAID continues to view agriculture as a driving force of economic growth and employment. It accounts for roughly 25% of GDP, and roughly 75% of Afghans earn their income in one way or the other from agriculture. While USAID continues to invest in the agricultural ministries' capacity and their ability to regulate the industry and educate Afghan farmers, we place increasing primacy on the private sector, especially those which are value-added, such as traders, processors, and exporters. USAID continues to invest in all stages of the agricultural value chain, but is slowly shifting its focus from working directly with farmers to in-stage agribusiness processors and sellers such as juice processing, almond shelling, raisin cleaning, pack houses, and exporters. Our horticulture program, which I mentioned, CHAMP, has a trade office in Delhi, and the pending Radip East program will focus significantly on those value chains that include seed and fertilizer, fruit, vegetables, and nut processors, and traders and exporters. Opportunities for investment are concentrated in processing, trading, and export to high-value markets such as in India and the Gulf states. This will require establishing or strengthening trade relationships and upgrade Afghan practices to meet demands for quality standards, certification, and reliable delivery. Significant advances can be made with relatively simple improvements in sorting, grading, packing, and price signals for quality disaggregated products reaching these value chains. More advanced processing equipment, cold storage, and transport are also necessary improvements. However, there is ample scope for lower cost improvement initially, such as the sorting, grading, and packaging previously mentioned. USAID looks forward to partnerships with the private sector, and with regard to the credit mechanisms that are available to the farming sector, let me mention the Agricultural Development Fund, the Afghan Growth Finance Fund, and financial intermediation services provided through USAID Financial Access for Investing in the Development of Afghanistan, which many of you may know as the FIDA program, and the Assistance in Building Afghanistan by Developing Enterprises, which again, many of you may know as the Abadi program, is focused on stimulating private sector investment and value-added growth in the agricultural sector. In closing, I was going to provide some statistics on regional consumer demand, but with regard to saving time for the panelists, I'll pass on that. And we all hope that in the future, that the Afghan farmers will soon be able to take full advantage of all of the regional export opportunities in the very near future, again, that Dr. Zakhawal had mentioned. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Charles Mell with CNC Global Resources, and it's really a pleasure to see as many people here today as there are. I'd like to thank Don and the AACC for pulling this great event again. I've been here the last couple of years, and every year I'm amazed at the continued enthusiasm that I see. I at CNC Global Resources, sounds like a big company. It's really just me and sometimes another person, but I get involved a lot in business development, partnership developments within Afghanistan. I most recently returned a few days before Thanksgiving. So I've spent some recent time in Afghanistan bouncing around trying to put together partnerships, working with Afghans, working with the government, working with our government, supporting agricultural events. We've seen a lot of data, and we've heard a lot of data. I'm going to reflect on some of that data when I get towards the end of my remarks, because I think it's very important from a private sector investment standpoint or involvement standpoint, is that you realize there's a lot of data that's been collected. There is a lot of brain power working on agriculture in Afghanistan. I think Abdul mentioned the amount of people or the involvement of the Afghan people in agriculture. Anywhere from 60 to 80% of the Afghan people are involved in agriculture in some sort of way. You know, one of the issues is that it's very fragmented. Small farms, regional farms, and we've heard David mention the lack of storage. It's really hard to do more with your crop if you can't store it for more than a couple weeks. You need to move it and take whatever price you can. The other thing is a statistic I just pulled up this morning is that by 2030, they're predicting that the world food needs will increase by 50%. So as we look at the keys to agricultural development for Afghanistan, and Afghanistan as a major player in that region of the world, agriculture is one of the first things that pops up. My experience in what Afghanistan needs, no one grows better than the Americans. The U.S., we are the growers for the world. We bring great technology, great science to our agriculture. when you look at investing in Afghanistan from an agricultural standpoint, I'll back up for a second. In my spare time, I teach or coach Little League Baseball. And this time of year, everybody's going to come in with their new bats that they got, and they all think they're going to hit home runs. And I'll spend half the practice trying to teach these young kids, let's not go for the home run, let's get that base hit. So as you look at a strategy to invest in agriculture in Afghanistan, let's go for the base hit. I think Abdul mentioned that don't expect to do something in 1-2 years. Now's the time to start to look at leveraging what our government's done in Afghanistan, the research, the programs that David mentioned. Align your products and services, your technology, with those types of projects that are going on. And don't expect to just, pick up the phone, hey, I've got some great fertilizer, it can help increase crop yield by X, Y, Z. It's going to take you some time to, A, build trust in the people and the people in you, and also habits don't change overnight. Even if you throw a lot of money at it, it's as soon as that money goes away, people end up going back to how they used to do things. So take your time, leverage what has been done, leverage the Ministry of Agriculture in Afghanistan, start to form those partnerships now. Take your time and be very diligent with those partnerships. My experience is that everyone I meet, both here and in Afghanistan, tells you they can do it all. Take your time, really dig into what people can do, and you'll benefit from it. Afghanistan needs our help, wants our help, and I think we have the help that we can bring. And it's going to take the private sector to do it, because if you give somebody something for 6 months, yeah, they can do a little better job. But if their skin is in the game, they're invested in their future, that's where the real growth is delivered. I have a lot of personal stories I can share with you. I'll be here most of the day. I know we're trying to pick up some time, but on a final note, my experience of working in Afghanistan, and I don't typically work in an aid compound, no offense or something. I'm out moving about, meeting, greeting, getting involved in what really goes on the ground. And my experience has been very heartwarming that people really appreciate what you do over there. I've got some great friends on the ground over there, and I only see better things for Afghanistan moving forward. So I would encourage you, if you are even contemplating anything in the agricultural investment world, whether that's technology, best practices, you start to take a hard look at Afghanistan now, because I think there have never been a better time to take a look at it. So that's my final words for you. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Christopher Svedu. I am from EDI USA in Philadelphia. We are a corporation that primarily manufactures infrastructure products in the agricultural, healthcare, and security and defense industries, and we work in about 26 countries around the world, primarily in Africa, the greater Middle East, as well as in South America. In terms of Afghanistan, without farmer mechanization, advanced crop-based agribusiness cannot advance in any way in Afghanistan. To this date, only about half of Afghanistan's arable land is currently being cultivated. And from what we see, the majority of that land is being cultivated by outdated agricultural equipment or plows and tillers being pulled or powered by oxen or other livestock. Today, our corporation, EDI USA, manufactures about 95 different lines of agricultural equipment, such as tractors, plows, and tillers. And even though we also manufacture veterinary and other livestock additives and pharmaceuticals, we definitely view mechanization as the need right now that will help to promote crop-based agriculture in Afghanistan. If we examine Afghanistan's situation of non-mechanized agriculture, we'll see that Afghanistan's situation actually is not necessarily unique in terms of, I guess, agricultural economies in that region. However, what does make Afghanistan's agricultural situation unique is the amount of arable land that is available to be harvested and cropped. With the small amount of land that is there to be harvested, it is imperative that Afghan farmers are able to optimize their cultivation as well as harvesting techniques to the fullest potential in order to yield the highest level of crop output. Over the past years, our studies have shown that one single farmer is able to actually plow and harvest, but essentially plow more than 10 extra hectares a day, which is about 25 acres, or essentially 20 football fields, American football fields, by using quality and high-powered agricultural machinery. If we apply this model to Afghanistan, we can certainly see how much more productive farmers would be and how much essentially dramatic output of crop would be coming from Afghanistan to be exported throughout the region, as well as to international, further away markets. Personally, the majority of my experience lies in farmer mechanization programs in Africa and in South America. But similarly to Afghanistan, many countries experience unique challenges in these optimization and cultivation techniques. And what we do at EDI USA is we primarily implement transfer of technology programs with government agencies and private partners around the world in order to help bring advanced as well as standard mechanized equipment and farmer optimization technologies throughout the world. In addition, we also implement extensive training programs to help farmers around the world learn how to adopt mechanized farming techniques. So focusing back on Afghanistan, it is certainly imperative that in the immediate future, which I would say in the next 8 to 10 years, Afghanistan does adopt an intensive farmer mechanization program. If this process of mechanizing farming does not happen really within the next decade or so, I personally believe Afghanistan will have huge challenges in continuing to be a developing global player in crop-based agribusiness. But nonetheless, wrapping up with technology today, we're really able to solve some of the toughest challenges that have, I guess, encountered in the past in terms of farming issues. We're able to use 3D printing technology to manufacture spare parts in overseas countries or in very remote regions of the world. We're able to broadcast multilingual training videos to farmers throughout the international scope to train them on how to properly use equipment or to troubleshoot equipment. In the past, we've actually attached GPS devices to agricultural equipment to assist in tracking capabilities. So I'm 100% confident that a successful farmer mechanization program can be implemented in Afghanistan. However, the timeline to do that is really now. So to leave you with a little proverb that actually was originated in the southern part of the U.S. A while ago when agriculture was first developing there. Agriculture is the most certain source of direct wealth. And I'm sure we will see that developing even further in Afghanistan in the next few years. Thank you.
Just to wrap up, I spoke a lot about investment, 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 and my colleagues also say investment, investment, investment. Where does the investment come from? If it comes to a small farmer and he needs money to purchase a bag of fertilizer, and that is investment, where does he get the money? So I think our present approach of giving credit or development of credit institutions has to change. It cannot come from top. The credit institution, they put their conditions. Instead, I think it has to be the conditions of the farmers. What conditions the farmers live to? Some people speak about access to credit or credit. The credit may be there, but can the farmers utilize it? Like this condition of you have to have a Kabbalah of your land. In Afghanistan, 90% of people don't have Kabbalah. I remember when we are implementing the Green Revolution in the mid-1670s, we knew that the farmers don't have Kabbalah, but we had to find a way out. What else we could do to have farmers have access to credit? We developed a system, and we call it in Farsi Ham Wujudagi, a form of 10 people, and it 2 brothers or 3 brothers, cousins, and they put the form together, and each one of them were guaranteeing everybody else. If Mr. X did not pay, I will pay. And then against each farmer, we had a certification for the local extension agent. Yes, I know this farmer. I know him for a long time. I'm sure that when he take the credit, he will use it. And then the extension agent was responsible to supervise that whether the farmers, when they took credit, did they use it, but did they use it properly? So these things have to be adjusted to the local condition. I call it supervised credit. And it worked in the past, it will work again. The objective is to have farmers have access to credit to invest. If they have no money, where they can invest? Same thing about mechanization. Everywhere in Afghanistan, whether he is agriculturist or not agriculturist, say, I think, what's the problem with the agriculture in Afghanistan? He said, we have to mechanize agriculture. It's easy to say, but with this land holding, small land holding that Afghan farmers have, but we have to find a solution. What kind of mechanization is needed? We have to prioritize it. This mechanization first, the second step second, then third. But mechanization is absolutely needed. For one thing, if you mechanize a farm or we plow a farm with a tractor, you really plow. But with the oxen, all you do is dry a ditch. It doesn't cultivate the soil. And then with a tractor, you can cultivate 1 jerib of land in a few hours. With the oxen, you cannot do it. And then also we have a very, very, very much great losses in agriculture, like seed rate. If you have a tractor and you do it with seed drill, you probably will use about 2 sairs in Afghan, 2 sairs per jerib. But right now, the average is 5 sairs. So you know how much you will save in a year, and then multiply this by years. The same thing goes with fertilizer. You know, we don't make fertilizer. We used to make urea fertilizer in Mazar, 105,000 tons, but now the production comes down to about 20,000 tons. But most of these imports we are importing, but we are not using them effectively. When we put fertilizer, they spray it, broadcast. They put it in their daman, they spray. This is not the way to use a very, very precious commodity. The same thing goes with the diammonium phosphate fertilizer, because that phosphate fertilizer has the characteristic of fixation. The soil will fix a great amount of, but if you have fertilizer and you'll be able to put fertilizer exactly where the roots need it, then you will save a lot. You will increase the yield and you will sell a lot. So that's what Chris was saying when mechanization, then we call it adaptive mechanization. So it has to be with all the conditions together. I think we've been speaking that his company is also manufacturing agricultural machinery in the country where they work. That will create jobs for the Afghans, and then we don't have to be depending on spare parts to some other countries to go and get it from. Thank you. If you have any questions, we are ready to reply.
Thank you, Abdullah and panel, for excellent presentations. You know, Abdul talks about credit for agriculture. But when you come right down to it, credit is the key to business expansion, not just in agriculture, but across the length and breadth of the Afghan economy, the various sectors. And one of the things that AACC was promoting, and AICC and ACCI have been promoting from the beginning, was mechanisms for expanded access to credit for Afghan business. And I personally missed the London conference, and I really regret it, but you can imagine, as a kind of chief cook and bottle washer for our event today, one does not get to leave the week before the conference, so I was regrettably not able to attend London, but I hope at the London conference this issue of credit, expanded credit for business, has come up. The Afghan commercial banks do not have what it takes to do all of the things that we dream about in this room, whether it's agriculture or expanding the construction industry into the private sector in terms of housing developments, community developments. Kabul New City is a great dream. This is an issue. I know I talked to Dave here at USAID. People have batted back and forth this idea of an agricultural credit banks located regionally throughout the country and having extension, agricultural expansion throughout the country. John Malore, Dr. John Malore, one of the foremost international experts on Afghan agriculture, I'm sure would have brought that subject up. And I'd be interested in Dave, your comment on the idea of the ag credit banks. It has been, I know, discussed quite a bit at USAID over the last 10 years, 12 years, but there's not been an attempt to really push it forward in a kind of major way. Dave, you want to come to the podium and discuss that? Dave is a key private sector advisor to the economic growth program at USAID, and should be a good one to talk about this.
I think with regard to USAID's role, with regard to helping provide credit, we work very closely, as many of you know, through our implementing partners. And our implementing partners, particularly the FIDA program, has a financial intermediation program where they work very closely with the private sector in trying to provide that intermediation between the commercial banks and those that need the credit, as Don was talking to, whether they be in agriculture or some other sector. So again, we try to design the programs to meet the current economics reality in the country, and working directly try to work directly, as you said, at the field level, to create those mechanisms that the private sector can take advantage of, either directly through our intermediation with the commercial banks, or through the Afghan Agricultural Fund, which was funded by USAID and works through with the ministry as well as Afghan Growth Finance, which is a credit program that both USAID and OPIC helped fund. So we have many different mechanisms that we try to use in Afghanistan to provide that credit to the various industry sectors.
Thanks, Dave. You know, in our audience here is Mustafa Kazım, who is the president of the Afghan Growth Finance Organization, which is an offshoot of the Overseas Private Investment Corporation. We'll hear from them in the next panel. But Mustafa Kazım, please stand so they know. And I think I would hope that Mustafa Kazım takes a one-on-one networking table this afternoon, possibly even tomorrow, because I think a number of you may be interested in what Afghan Growth Finance does. Their budget has been expanding over the years. They take a fairly low profile in that they have more business than they can handle usually, but it is a mechanism that is a credit provider for Afghan business. And it would be interesting to hear your thoughts on how you guys view the agriculture sector. As a matter of fact, if you are doing anything in the agricultural sector these days, you might come up and give a couple of minutes of presentation on that. Is there, or would you prefer to go one-on-one? One-on-ones will be fine. And again, I encourage you to talk with Ed Corcoran, who is managing the one-on-one networking sessions later today. Again, I want to thank the agriculture panel for an excellent job and welcome the Financing Afghan Development panel to the dais. Oh no, we're going to have we're going to have a brief coffee, tea, networking break. We're going to try to reduce the amount of time, 10 to 15 minutes. We'll call you back, and thank you very much. Let's move on. All right.